Well, I think we've still got to continue to develop there. I think last week kind of was a lot of rust. Kind of in that room, obviously, kind of getting some guys back healthy, but it's got to start with practicing. We got to have guys practicing every day. Got to have everybody competing, and that's one of the things that, based on our depth, we haven't had over the last few weeks. So getting him back was obviously encouragement, but it'll be better now as we get them back into acclimating into practice, getting them full speed reps all the time.
Yeah, the flea flicker worked out quite well. What was going through your mind when you decided this is the time to dial up this play?
It's one of your calls in the game, and obviously it's one that you prepare for, one you practice, go through execution-wise, and it's always your gut feeling when to call it, where to call it, situations in the game, and it came down to the players executing at a very high level.
Tyler's pretty hard on himself after the last performance. I'm curious what you thought of his play, and then also just the receivers. Are they getting open enough for your liking, creating enough separation?
Yeah, well, first off, we were very sluggish on offense. I don't think we can hide from that. We never want the quarterback to get hit 4 times. And so it wasn't anything, and credit to Southern Miss by any means, but it was all things we can control. We just had some mental collapses where we just kind of didn't touch a man or didn't block a man that was right in front of us. And it was nothing that our guys hadn't prepared for. And it was just one of those moments in games where, we just had some kind of brain freeze. So we obviously corrected that and look forward to correcting that moving forward. But Tyler's always going to be critical of himself. That's what you want out of your greatest leaders. You want them to, point the thumb at themselves before they point the finger at anyone else. And so he takes on tremendous responsibility trying to be being our quarterback, and we accept him for it. The receivers have done a great job. They've done a great job so far, but, I'm not ready to pat the backs of anyone. We've got to continue to develop ourselves, continue to take the next step. And one of the things that I thought would be our biggest challenge going into week 2 is how do you handle success? And so for us to be the team that we need to be a mature football team that understands how to handle success, also has to understand how to overcome adversity as well.
Josh, tight ends only had 1 catch for 5 yards on Saturday. I guess they were needing more blocking, some of the blitzing, luck of the draw or unluck of the draw. What did you see?
A lot of times that just goes off game flow. It's not anything, intentional. It's kind of predicated based on what the defense is doing coverage-wise or where the ball is going. The biggest thing we always focus on is completion percentage. At the end of the day, as long as we're completing at a high number and we're keeping the quarterback clean, we really don't get caught up too much in who's touching the ball. Obviously, the ball is spread around quite a bit, but sometimes that's going to go to our X, sometimes that's going to go to our Z, sometimes it's going to go to our Y. But we got to make the most of the opportunities that are presented to us. And so it was one of those days, unfortunately, for the tight ends. But obviously, their role didn't decrease by any means. I don't think you can judge one position based on performance or outcome of catches. And so they're a critical part of our offense, an important piece to what we do. And they'll find opportunities in the pass game as we move forward.
App State played kind of such an interesting offensive game where it looked like Tony Gordon play, it was like perfect in situational football. Are there takeaways you can get from watching how they pulled off that upset on Saturday?
Well, I think the biggest thing that stands out when you look at that game, right, was time of possession. I want to say Texas A&M only had the ball for about 35 or 40 offensive snaps, and when you're able to control the ball like that, that's a critical factor in games. A lot of people don't look at that statistic. Is the number of how many reps you're taking, how much you're controlling the game and controlling the flow of the game through time of possession. I think that's very important, especially when you're dealing with any type of explosive team. And obviously, Texas A&M is a team that's very explosive. They got a ton of speed on their team, ton of speed on their defense. You've got to make sure that you're holding on to the ball and not giving it away, and being able to, a lot of people don't get excited about 3 or 4 yard gains, but those 3 and 4 yard gains win games. And you have to understand that within the game, and I think that's where Appalachian State did a great job of on last Saturday.
How significant was it to have to go through the process of making halftime adjustments and then responding?
Well, the biggest halftime adjustments that we made on Saturday was not, as I told our guys, is not killing ourselves, from that standpoint. We just the breakdowns, the lack of urgency, the lack of execution. Those were all things that we could correct and control. And so got them in at halftime. And the biggest thing I told them is calm down. Just calm down. We've got to take a deep breath, calm down. For whatever reason it was, we came out just a mess. and it was evident in our performance early on. And so once they rallied themselves, understood there was nothing that we haven't seen, nothing that they haven't done, then obviously they started having success. And so the biggest thing is controlling the controllables, playing as clean and as good as we can. And Saturday, the slow start started just the fundamentals. Increase intention to detail in the fundamentals and the daily execution of things that we do all the time. And that's something we've got to continue to strive to work towards.
Josh, how do you prepare guys, I guess, Mario, this for the noise factor? Because speakers at Braintree don't do it.
Well, it's definitely a factor in the game. You're going into a very hostile environment and one of the most largest crowds in college football. You're talking about 100+ thousand for every game for them, and so that's going to be a difference. It's going to be different on a lot of aspects for our team. But the biggest thing that we've got to do is we've got to embrace the environment. We've got to embrace playing in front of a packed out crowd, on the road, SEC environment. We will bring in the noise in practice, and it gets pretty loud with the speakers. Trust me, there's times where I can't talk to the other players on the field because the speakers are so loud. But we've got to handle that. We've got to do a great job with our verbal and visual communication. Whether that's signals, communication on the field, and everything. And so everyone's got to take an enhanced effort at preparation this week and going through our daily process to help us lead to win this game.
Coach, I know Cooper was used a lot of the Muller against Southern Miss. I guess how would you evaluate his performance?
Nez did a good job. He's obviously as a freshman. He's taking on an increased role. Obviously he didn't have a catch. Unfortunate for him. I know he probably wish he had one in that category. But Inez has done a great job, learning our system, being coachable and making contributions. And when you've got guys like that, you want to try to create as many roles as you can for as many players on your team. And so, he was used on Saturday. And, what that looks like moving forward, who knows? But he's been such a valuable player for us, not only as an offensive lineman, but whatever we ask him to do. Well, I think Jacoby's got to create his role. I think obviously it's good to have him back, but he's got to create his role. I think when you look at the receiver room, some guys have created roles. Whether that's Keyshawn Smith, Mike Redding is playing at his best football right now. Obviously, Xavier Restrepo is Xavier Restrepo. He's so consistent in his preparation and his performance. Success just speaks from how he practiced. I think Brashad Smith has kind of taken the next step, even though Brashad can continue to learn from Xavier. And I think so many guys right now are clawing at opportunities in that receiver room. And so we've got to continue to push the competition level up there. And obviously getting Jacoby back makes us a little bit more deeper from that standpoint. But I'm excited this week to see him go out and compete and acclimate himself back into that room.
What's your assessment to this point, situational football, third down, red zone,
Well, through 2 games, I think we're doing pretty decent. First game was 100% on third down, and this past game, I want to say we were just over 50% of third down, and then obviously the red zone, getting scores in the red zone. Now, obviously the biggest statistic that you always focus on in red zone, one, obviously people talk about red zone scoring percentage, but for us, we want to focus on touchdown percentage. Really, scoring touchdowns and not having to kick as many field goals. I think we kicked 3 field goals on Saturday. Unfortunately, we want those back. But things that happened in the red zone that took us back out of position to get those touchdowns were penalties. Things that we can control. We had 1 touchdown come off the board of a long gain, another unsportsmanlike penalty or unnecessary roughness that took us out of scoring range, and then ultimately decided with a field goal. And so we just got to play clean football. When we get into the red zone, obviously the stakes become higher, and our focus has got to increase as well. And so we've got to play clean football in the red zone. We've got to be able to score touchdowns. Yeah, I think it's been a very detailed plan for Zion, just kind of acclimating him back to the offense. And then, he's another guy that's kind of like Jalen Knighton is, I think a lot of people are being able to see them make contributions in games, but the thing we're excited about is getting them to become full-time practice players. And so, even though, some guys have been out there getting game reps, they haven't been available to practice at all times. And so for us, it's about getting as many guys out to practice every rep throughout practice. That way we can maintain consistency as an offense, and as a unit. Having that type of communication up front in the front five, having that consistency in the play. And so, but we also have some guys that have created roles for themselves on the offensive line as well. And so it's a unique position that we're in. As we're gaining depth, we're also creating challenges, for everyone to continue to play and perform at a very high level because we have some depth there and some competition brewing.
Coach, obviously, you don't do with game plan or anything, but what are some of the things that you've seen from A&M's defense on film that might make them vulnerable?
Well, first, I'll acknowledge they're very talented. They're fast. They're athletic. They've got a ton of depth on the defensive line. They create issues to people at the size and talent that they have. The thing as far as take advantage of, before you can take advantage of anyone, you've got to focus on being precise in what you do and how you do it. And the thing that we've got to do this week is we got to focus on our fundamentals. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care who we play. If we don't perform at a high level fundamentally, it's going to be hard to accomplish the goals that we want to accomplish. When we do play at a level where we focus on those things, we can accomplish some pretty unique things. And so it's got to go back to us. I wasn't, if you can tell, I wasn't pleased with the way we started out last game from a fundamental standpoint. And that's what we're excited. Our kids knew it, although every win is a great win. Our kids are eager to come back and get to work tomorrow. They're eager, obviously, to play on the road, but they're more importantly, they're eager to correct the mistakes that they've made and continue to enhance themselves moving forward.
Anything else for Coach Gattis?
Coach, how do you manage not revealing too much on a week-to-week basis, and do you work on certain, or do you kind of create certain plays for certain situations?
Yeah, every game plan is different. There's different things different decisions that go into creating a game plan. Obviously, your personnel matchups, what defensively they may present challenges or opportunities. And then you grow it off of based on what your players do best. And so, the biggest thing for us offensively is to allow ourselves to put our players in the best position to succeed. And that's everyone included. And so when we're developing that game plan, we're taking in all attributes of what we know our players do best, what we see our players do best on a day-to-day basis, and not, we don't get caught up in the outside, we should look like this or look like that. We do what's best to win games. And ultimately, once you win games, then you ultimately win championships. And so first and foremost is just taking a 1-0 approach each and every week. Whatever it takes to win that game, that's the approach we'll take offensively. Awesome. Thank you.